Hi everybody, today we're going to be working on a fairy craft. I'm going to be using a few molds for this part as well as Amazin casting resin. And this comes in two parts, comes with two parts, part A and part B. And what you do is that you pour them separately into two separate containers, and then you mix them together in one container to go ahead and get your resin ready. I'm also going to be using this pigment powder. I bought this from Redesign with Prima. It comes with six little jars, 7 grams each, and this is called the foliage collection. Foliage collection. I'm sorry. So what I'm going to be doing is, after I put on my gloves, is that I am going to be brushing the inside of my first mold, which is mushrooms, and that's an IOD mold, by the way. So what I'm going to be doing is that I'm going to be using three colors out of this set. The first one is like a moss green color, then the next one is a brown, and then like a terracotta color. So what I do is that I take my paintbrush and I dip it into the first color, which I believe is the brown color. And I start brushing the inside of my mold with that pigment powder. And I saw the way I discovered this product was that I saw a video where a girl was using this on her mold, and she was doing exactly what I'm doing, that she was brushing the inside of her mold with the pigment powder before she poured her resin in there. And I really loved the way it came out. So I am going to go ahead and try this technique myself and hope that I have the same success that she did. I am excited to be using this. I've never used anything like this before. So it's a new technique for me. So what you see is that I'm going to be using all three colors in each mushroom. I make sure that I cover each mushroom with the pigment color first, making sure that I cover all the sides of each mushroom and the middle parts. Once I'm done putting that pigment, the three colors inside of each of my mushrooms, I'm going to go ahead and get ready to do my resin. So guys, please, when you're using any kind of resin, make sure you're wearing gloves. If it gets on your skin, it's going to be irritating. Also wear a mask if it's not well ventilated. The way I do it is that I just use one container. That's just me. I pour 10 of the part A and 10 of the part B. And then I go ahead and I mix it. And the way this works, as you'll notice, is that when you're stirring it, it starts out really cloudy. And then as you're mixing it, it's going to start turning clear. And that's when you know that it's ready. Make sure that you mix it really well, though. And you have to do this really fast because it starts to set really quick also. I go ahead and I pour that resin into each one of my mushrooms, being careful to fill each mushroom completely, that everything is filled in there. So I am not going to be using all the mushrooms on this IOD mold. I'm just going to use a few of the mushrooms though. Just making sure I work quickly because, like I said, you're going to notice that the resin gets really warm, and you know, the longer you take, it starts to thicken up. So you kind of want to be really quick about this, careful and safe, but you do want to do this quickly. So as you can see, it starts to set right away. This only takes 10 minutes. The next mold I'm going to be working with is my Redesign by Prima mold, and I'm going to be putting a border on the outside of my frame. So these little trims that I'm doing there are going to be the border that I'm going to be using. What I'm doing now is that I'm applying the same pigment powder that I used on the mushrooms. I'm applying it to these two little molds. And same thing, I'm going to be using all three colors in there. So I take each color and I dab it on. And by the way, this pigment powder does go a long way. It's really, really strong. So you only need a tiny little bit. I barely even tap the brush in my powder. So as you notice, I'm just going to put all three colors in there. I go ahead and I get another batch of my resin to start pouring into that other mold. And I also have another redesigned by Prima mold that has a decorative trim in there, and I'm going to be pouring my resin into that as well. Like before, I'm going to pour the 2 parts into my 1 container, and the one I use here again is I do 10 of part A, and then I fill it up 10 more of the part B, making it equal to 40. I mix it, make sure that it's clear, and I go ahead and pour it into my molds. So I start with the border that I'm going to put on my frame, making sure I fill the whole thing, making sure that it's even. And then what I do is that I pour the rest of the resin in the decorative mold. And the decorative mold, I didn't put any pigment powder in there because I'm going to do something else with that mold. So that's just regular resin. And by the way, if I have any extra, as you'll see here, I do go ahead and pour it into some of the mushrooms, the regular, that they don't have any pigment in there, just because I don't like to waste my resin. I like to take advantage of any resin that I have. So I do just a couple of little extra molds. And if I ever need them, I already have them done. Okay, so all my molds are ready. The resin went ahead and hardened. And I'm just showing you guys that decorative piece, my trimming, my 2 little molds that I'm going to put on my frame, and the mushrooms. Again, this is the full foliage set that I got from Redesign with Prima. So we're going to go ahead and take out the ones that are just extras. I will put those to the side. If I ever need them, I have them. Now we're going to go ahead and check out the ones that have the pigment powder. And here's the first one. I love it. Beautiful. Here's the next one. I love the colors, by the way. They look really natural. I didn't even, I was taking a risk when I was using those 3 colors. And I'm so happy I did because they came out perfect. Look at the color on those. They look just like mushrooms. I'm not going to be using this big one. It's too big, I realized. But it's beautiful, and I'll use it another time. Here's another one that I did. I'm so excited. These are going to be perfect for my craft. Beautiful. I just love the way they came out. Here's another one. Put that to the side. Now here's that border that I want to go ahead, and I'm tapping it just to make sure it's nice and hard, but it only takes 10 minutes, so it's done. Here's the first one. Perfect. Here's that next one. I'm going to be making at least anywhere from 8 to 10 of these. And then here's that decorative one that I did that doesn't have any pigment powder on it. So that's just a little extra one. I'll keep that to the side as well. Here's the frame that I am going to be putting the border on, but here's I end up changing this frame because it turns out too big for the print that I have for this project. So I just, I do end up changing it. So I am going to be making more. Okay, I went ahead and finished making all those little molds that I want to use on the outside of my frame. And I ended up making about 9 or 10 of those, but we're gonna set those to the side because the next molds that we're working on are my butterfly and my dragonfly molds that I'm going to be also using in this project. I'm sorry, I'm just readjusting that camera. I'm also going to be using that pigment powder that I used last night on my first molds. And I'm also going to be adding glitter to these molds. I have green, I have blue, and I have gold. I'm also going to be using that Amazin casting resin again on these molds. So I'm going to go ahead and get my pigment powder ready. I'm going to start with the bright green one. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to take some glitter and I'm going to sprinkle it on my first dragonfly, making sure that the whole thing is covered with glitter. I just put it some on my hand. It's just better control for me that way. Go ahead and sprinkle that in there. Make sure that the whole thing is covered with my glitter. And by the way, this is super fine glitter. I then take my green pigment powder and I start dabbing it inside my dragonfly, making sure to cover the whole thing. Just a tiny bit more, just to make sure that it's fully covered. And there goes my first one. I'm excited. I think it's going to be beautiful. I then go ahead and take my second dragonfly, and again I open up my glitter and I start sprinkling it inside the second dragonfly, making sure that it's covered fully with the glitter. Once I'm happy, I go and take my purple. I clean off my brush first, and then I take my purple pigment powder and I go ahead and start brushing the inside of that second dragonfly, just making sure that I'm happy that it's fully covered with it. You see me barely tapping that pigment powder because it just barely takes any powder to cover it. There goes my second one. It's beautiful. The next one I'm going to be using is the gold glitter. And I'm going to be using that for my butterflies. Just wiping my hands off. And I'm going to be using the brown pigment powder. I'm just showing you the difference there. But I used the brown one. I'm having a hard time opening it, but I do get it eventually. Just bear with me. I got it. Okay, there you go. Just tap a little bit in there. Excuse me. Same thing. I take my gold glitter and I just pour some in my hand and start sprinkling the glitter inside my 3 butterflies that I want to be using. And just to let you know that I didn't use enough glitter on these butterflies. I should have used more, especially with the brown pigment powder, because it didn't show up as much as it did with the dragonflies. But that's an easy fix. After I take them out of the mold, I go ahead and take a little bit of Elmer's glue and I just brush them and sprinkle more glitter on there. So it was an easy fix. You see me, I'm just dabbing that pigment powder in there. Making sure that my 3 butterflies are completely covered with the pigment powder. Okay, once that's done, I just put the powder back in the jars. Put my jars to the side. Next is I'm going to be pouring my resin into the mold, so I put on my gloves. Always wear gloves with resin, always. So I go ahead and mix. I mix about 5 of each, 5 of part A and 5 of part B, equaling up to 10 in that jar. Sorry, just like that paper cap thing that's inside the cap, it gets stuck on the rim of my resin. So I'm gonna go ahead and carefully pour. I'm just pouring a little bit because it's just 3 little molds. I take a little craft stick, I go ahead and stir it. You see that it's cloudy. I keep stirring until it becomes clear. And then I go ahead and quickly pour that resin into my molds. Okay, so my molds are ready. So we're going to go ahead and check them out. These are my butterflies. So as I said before, I didn't put enough glitter in there. So they don't have as much glitter, but I will show you guys. It does have some, but I should have put more in there. So I'll know better for next time. So there's my first one. That's my second one. And then that's the last one. I'm just taking off whatever little extra resin. There it goes. And here are the dragonflies. As you can see, these are absolutely beautiful. The colors, I love the colors on these with the glitter. There's one. And then that's the green one that I used. And then here's the purple one. And I just love them. They're so pretty. Okay, before I move on, I just wanted to show you guys that to clean these molds is really easy. I just used a little bit of Dawn and a scrubby brush, and they came clean right away. I just wanted to show you guys that I did go on and put extra glitter on my butterflies, and that's what they look like now. So I am much happier now that I added the extra glitter, and I'll know for next time that with the brown pigment powder, if I want to use glitter, I just have to put a little extra in there. Okay, now it's time for me to work on my frame. So what I'm going to be doing is that I'm going to be painting this frame in the color Burnt Amber by Apple Barrel. But before I do that, I want to let you guys know that last night before I went to bed, I went ahead and applied Bonding Boss by Dixie Belle, because this frame that I got now, it was a metal frame, and I needed that that burnt umber paint to stick to my frame. So I just went ahead and did that before I went to bed. I'm also going to be using FolkArt Farmhouse White on this frame down the road. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and apply 2 coats of this color to my frame because I just want really good coverage. I love this color. It's so rich, and it's a nice chocolatey color. So that's what I'll be doing. I'll be covering the whole thing with 2 coats. Once I'm done painting my frame, I go ahead and make sure that I dry it really well with my heat gun. Okay, once that's done, I am now ready to start putting the border around my frame. And before I do that, I want to let you guys know, because my camera stopped recording and it didn't record me adding that farmhouse white to my frame. So what I did was that I dry brushed that color on there. I just wanted to give it a little bit of a distressed look on the frame. So it's just a brushed on with the white farmhouse white from by FolkArt. So here you see me, I'm just arranging my border, just making sure. I'm going to be using Tite Bond all-purpose wood glue to attach these. And if I need to trim them, I can always use my utility knife if on the bottom I need to trim them. Okay, now that most of my border is attached, I want to show you guys my decorative mold. What I did with this piece was I went ahead and painted it with that burnt umber from Apple Barrel. And then I went ahead and took a wet wipey and wiped off all the excess, just leaving the burnt umber inside the crevices of that mold. That just gives it a really nice antique look. I'm going to go ahead and attach my last piece of my border to my frame. And guys, what I do is, what you see me doing with the brush there is, if there's any like excess brush when I put down my borders or any mold actually, I just brush off the, wipe away the glue and wipe it with a clean wipey, and I just get rid of that excess glue on there, just so that it's not that messy. This glue does dry clear, by the way, but I just always go ahead and clean it up just a little bit. And that's what the mold, the frame is looking like so far. I really like it. I think it's going to be really pretty. The next part is that I'm going to be applying this metallic acrylic paint in the color. The color is Ancient Coin. And I got this at Redesign with Prima. And so what I'm going to be doing is that I'm going to be dry brushing this all around my border as well. I already did, and it didn't record it, but I already did it. I also did the inside trim of my frame. So I'm just dry brushing this gold on there. And by the way, I like this because it's a really muted gold. I didn't want a loud gold on this frame. I just wanted like a muted gold color. So I go ahead and I dry brush all those pieces with this color, including the decorative piece on the top. So here's the beautiful print that I'm going to be working with today. It's a beautiful fairy. I got her at Decoupage Queen, and this is the Andy Skinner collection. I actually got a few of his prints. I love them, and I love fairies, so win-win. What I need to explain to you guys is that she was too big. I got the 8x11, and she was too big to fit inside my frame, so I ended up having to use my printer to make a smaller copy of her. And then the next problem I had was that I usually take my water brush and I go around the print and I rip off the edges, and then I can blend them in to whatever I'm doing, but not in this case. In this case, I had to cut her out, and I'll explain to you why. I had to cut her out because she's going to go on this print that I found on Pinterest, and I am not good enough to do any kind of blending like that. I'm not good with that technique, so I just had to end up cutting her so that she would blend into the background, into the print, and not have that white paper showing. Okay, now I'm going to be working with those mushrooms that I molded last night. And what I'm going to be doing is that I'm going to At some point, I'm going to be taking my fairy and I'm going to be adding glitter to her wings. I saw Decoupage Queen do this and it made her fairy wings really pop out. So I'll be doing the same. With the mushroom, what I'm going to be using is Best Dang Wax by Dixie Belle. And I'm going to go ahead and applying that wax all around the edges of my mushrooms. Why? Because another learning curve. I guess I didn't make sure that all the edges of my molds were fully covered with that pigment powder. So as you can see here, all the edges are still white. So I'm just going to go ahead and use my Best Damn Wax and cover that white up. And it works like a charm, by the way. I managed to go ahead and do all the mushrooms and they blended right in with my print. I also take my fairy and I gently, very gently, go ahead and apply some of that Best Damn Wax all around the edges of her shape. Just so that she can also blend in better with my print and just make her, stand out a little bit better. So you're not going to believe what I did. I made the biggest mistake, and the first board that I used, I did not paint it. So I had to go ahead and recopy my fairy. I had to recut her, and I am now using the right board. I painted it with Cottage White by FolkArt, and I am now applying Mosh Podge to the bottom of that cardboard, so I can go ahead and attach my new print that I also had to redo also with my printer. I go ahead and lay it down and just go over it with my hands, making sure that I get rid of any bubbles or wrinkles that might be on there. But this is printed on rice paper, so it didn't really give me a hard time. I go ahead, turn it over, and do the same thing to the top. Just putting a nice, even, thin layer of Mod Podge all over. You don't want globs of Mod Podge on there. Just want a nice, even, thin layer. Make sure you cover the whole thing. Once that's done, I just do the same thing. I lay it down gently. I go getting rid of as many bubbles and wrinkles, but there really isn't any. This paper didn't give me a hard time with that. So I use my hands and my arm to go ahead and make sure that everything is nice and smooth. And then I'm just going to go ahead and dry it really, really well. Once it's thoroughly dry, I go ahead and take my Gator sander and just go ahead and sand off the extra paper on both the top and the bottom of my print. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and show you the print inside the frame, and that's what it's going to end up looking. I think it's going to be beautiful. I love this print. By the way, I got this print on Pinterest. I found it, so that's where it came from. I'm ready to go ahead and start applying hot glue to the back of my frame so that I can go ahead and attach my print on there. That's what the frame looks like so far. I love it. I think it's so pretty. So now the next step is that I'm going to take my fairy and my mushrooms and I'm going to start placing them inside of the frame, just so that I see where I want to put everything in relationship to the fairy. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just making sure that I place everything correctly and that I'm happy with the way it's going to look. Once I'm happy, I'm going to take my fairy and one more time I'm just going to give her a really light once over with the best damn wax. I just want to make sure that she's highlighted inside that frame and that she's also blending in with the colors. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just giving her another once over, a light once over with the best damn wax. A lot of steps to this craft, but you'll be happy with the end. What I'm doing now is that I'm getting ready to go ahead and attach glitter to the fairy's wings. So I'm just going to take regular Elmer's glue and a small brush, and I'm going to go ahead and spread the glue on there, making sure that her wings are fully covered with the glue. Once that's done, I'm going to take my gold glitter and I'm going to sprinkle the glitter on her wings, making sure that everything is nice and covered. And I just think that it makes her pop a little bit. Once her wings are done, I go ahead and place her back inside the frame. I just want to make sure that everything is good, because it is now time to go ahead and attach her to the frame with Mod Podge. So I just rinsed off one of my brushes. I start applying the Mod Podge to her quickly but gently, because you know, I don't want to rip this paper, and she's got glitter on her wings now, so I just, you know, I try to go as gentle as possible. But I also make sure that she is all parts of her are covered with the Mod Podge. So once I'm happy, I am now ready to go ahead and attach her to the frame. And what happens here is that I keep having to lift her off the print, because I just wanted to make sure that her wings were not going to interfere with the mushrooms. So I keep having to lift her, move her over a little bit, lift her, move her over a little bit more, until she's placed just right. Once she's attached to the frame, I go ahead and use my heat gun to make sure that she's thoroughly dry. Once she's good and dry, I'm going to now go ahead and seal this whole print. I never seal inside a frame. I usually do that way before I put anything on a frame. But because I had to place the mushrooms, make sure that everything was good, I waited till this point to go ahead and seal it. So I'm going to take my Mod Podge and I'm going to apply a thin, even layer to the whole thing. And if I get Mod Podge on the outer rim of the frame, on the frame itself, it's okay. It's not a big deal. I can go ahead with a wet wipey afterwards and clean that up. Once I applied the Mod Podge, I went ahead and gave it a really good dry with my heat gun, making sure that the whole thing is really good and dry. Okay, so my camera for some reason stopped recording, so it didn't show me applying attaching the mushrooms. I used the Type Bond all-purpose wood glue to go ahead and attach the mushrooms to the frame, and that's what it's looking like so far. The next step is I'm going to start attaching the butterflies and the dragonflies to the frame. But once the dragonflies are on there, I am not happy with the color. They don't match with the general color of the print or the theme, and you can see there. So I end up not using them. I love them, they're beautiful. I'll use them on another craft, but not on this one. And guess what? We are done. My craft is complete, and that is the end result. I think she's absolutely beautiful, and I love it. is so pretty. Thank you for having the patience to hang out with me while I was making this. And I'm just showing you, by the way, the ending here. That's where I goofed up with the board that I didn't paint. And as you can see, I'm going to show you. Her skin got all ruined. It was not a good situation. And I'll put these side by side so that you can see the difference as to why is it that you need to paint your boards before you put your prints on them, because if not, this is what happens. You'll see right now I'm showing you. Here is the one that I didn't paint as compared to the one that I did paint. And you see the one that I did paint, the whole thing is just lighter. You can see, the light going up the stairs. Her skin is completely different. So that's it.